Studios in Burbank, California, and I am fortunate to be joined with the newly elected Vice President of Theatrical Motion Pictures for the Producers Guild, Lydia Dean Pilcher. Lydia, thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you.
Right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so you've got quite a term coming up. So you and David Friendly are both serving as our Vice Presidents of Theatrical Motion Pictures. What's your priority for the term if you had to pick one area where you wanted to focus?
Well, I've in my recent years in the Guild, most of my work has been focused on two committees that are very important to me personally and professionally. And I also represent the independent producer, based in New York, long involved with PGA East, and work closely with Peter Saraf and the executive committee there. And what I'm really interested in, I think the title officially is VP Theatrical Motion Pictures, which, given that in the independent world, the landscape is changing so drastically, and the role that theatrical distribution plays is in such a flux that I think that this is one of the things that we'll talk a lot about this year. Mm-hmm. I think that what's happening for independent producers and what we have to do to create our financial models to get our content out there, and then most importantly, how we get it seen, are all of the things that we're going to be networking about, sharing information, and really, pushing our professional development.
Right. So you've been instrumental in PGA Green, the PGA Green Initiative, and the Green Production Guide, which was just released this year, like a landmark, piece achievement for the Green Committee. Mm-hmm. Talk about, you were there at the start of PGA Green. Mm-hmm. How far has it come?
It's actually an amazing accomplishment for the Guild because this is one of the committees that is on a national level. We formed it on the East Coast around Earth Day, an Earth Day event with Al Gore, who really sent out a challenge to major leaders of industry to look within their own industry and see what they could do. And I was there on behalf of the Producers Guild. I thought it was an entertainment event, and it turned out that it was really major leaders of corporations across America. And we formed PGA Green at that time and found a pilot project to calculate the carbon footprint, and then from there take the lessons and measurements and see how far we needed to go to reduce the carbon emissions of a independent feature film. And it spread. I mean, there were people in the Guild that just really wanted to be involved and really wanted to take it further. And we began to, stage panels to talk about the project that we had. We found out that studios had been calculating their carbon footprint for a long time, and they were interested in standardizing a carbon calculator. And they were looking for a third party to work with. And the PGA became sort of the natural third party conduit because we had, begun this national effort with the West Coast and the East Coast, and we're doing our own work, greening productions and setting our own best practices. And so we launched a collaboration that has been going now into its fourth year, where they have funded us, the PGA Foundation, to create this website, greenproductionguide.com, which includes a vendor guide, a carbon calculator, and we wrote the PGA Green Unified Best Practices. It's been exciting because we're really working with the sustainability reps of all the studios. Right. We have conference calls once a month with everybody. Wow. And we just further the agenda and take it further. We publish stories about greening productions. We publish, the how-tos, the green tips, and really try to spread the word.
Right. I know in our magazine we broke the story about the report that the PGA Green Commission that shows that it is actually that there's no excuse. You can't use budget as an excuse not to green your production. And in fact, greening your production will save you budget when it comes to the bottom line. And that I think is going to be a big surprise for a lot of people. People, the assumption is the opposite. But how important is it for us to evangelize these findings?
Mm. Well, we found in our work that a lot of people feel that it costs money to be green, it costs money to get the compostable utilities and everything on set, that you have to pay more to get the recycling situations going, and you're always on the move, always on the run. Every situation is different, so it's not like there's one standard system you can put into effect. And we really wanted to take a close look at that. We've been doing it for so long, and we have eco stewards and eco supervisors who are specifically charged on sets to oversee these functions, and they're the ones on the front line that really see what happens when you bring large crowd scenes in and have big construction setups. And so we had one woman that we work with, Emily O'Brien, who's an eco supervisor. She worked on Spider-Man, she worked on Noah, the Darren Aronofsky film, and we asked her to sit down and really just keep track of like what she was using instead of the old way. And it was very interesting when we put the numbers all in one place to really see that the dollars, go in your favor when you run a green production. So it's a cost-benefit analysis on sustainability, and it's on our website. You can go to it, download it, read it, and if you're interested in convincing the people over you, whether it's your producer, whether it's your studio executive, that going green is a cost-saving measure, you can't lose.
All right, well, producers, you heard it. We're giving you the ammo, producers. It's up to you to execute and to make it happen, to use this report, which is on producersguild.org. Use that report to the best of your ability and make a difference, because, we're giving you the tools. Now, another committee that you're involved with, more recently formed committee, the Women's Impact Network, was created to address a different problem in the industry. And I wonder if you could talk about how you became aware of that, other than being a woman, but how you became aware of the research surrounding the deficit of female representation in Hollywood, and what the Women's Impact Network is working to change that. Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 years ago, Sundance and LA Women in Film commissioned the USC School of Annenberg Journalism Department to run a study on the barriers for women filmmakers. And they were, I think at the time they thought that they were going to show like the progress that had been made over the years. And after the study was done, and it was in depth, Dr. Stacy Smith conducted it with her team, and they announced the results. We were all in a room in a lodge in Sundance, and the results were that in the last decade there's been no perceptible change in the numbers, and everybody was just shocked, and it was a real wake-up call in the industry. And I think that coupled with what's happening with social media, I mean, women use social media, the platform that women have to express themselves. I mean, we're seeing it across industries that women are speaking up about gender inequity. And PGA started to follow along as an allied organization with Sundance and Women in Film. And after a few months, the conversation really was getting heated up about what are we going to do. And I was in a meeting where everybody went around the room to say what their organization was, and we've always had diversity as a huge priority for the Producers
absolutely.
Guild. And we also have a membership that is about 50-50. I think mentoring and networking in our industry is something that I, as a woman, have always felt very empowered by. And at the same time, they were asking the question, can you do more? So I said, let me find out. And I reached out to a group of women on the East Coast and a group of women on the West Coast, and the response was just overwhelming. I mean, everybody said, we can absolutely do more. So we formed the Women's Impact Network as a result of that. We've launched the committee, again, for me, basing it off of the strides that we've made in sustainability and working with the studios. I felt that the idea of a national committee would be the most effective, and the idea of really sort of keeping a high level of work with the guilds, with the diversity representatives of the studios and the networks who have been on the front lines for a long time and have done amazing work. But it's this element of bringing everybody together and getting everybody in the same room and on the same page, and what can we do to make everything more effective? Right. And that's the realm that we want to be in.
Right. So how are you guys going to go about changing the status quo? I mean, so when you talk about the palpable disappointment that you feel when you see how little progress has been made, despite it wasn't like people were just sitting back and, there were women who were vying for jobs and people who felt strongly about women making their way in the industry 10 years ago. why haven't we changed, and what are we going to do? What's going to bring about the change? Maybe that's the question we're looking for.
Well, another study happened through Sundance last year, which was a follow-up to the original study. And that study focused on the Sundance labs and the filmmakers that went through the lab, which involves a very considered mentoring process, a team that sort of follows through with the filmmakers, really sort of customizes a support system for what they need. And what they found in that study, that given that system, the films that get made as a result of going through the lab are 50-50 in terms of gender, and that there really isn't an imbalance when that kind of support system is in place. So I think that that's one level. I think that there are other levels that we should all be thinking about, which is female-driven content and female storytelling, and I think we should be asking a question if there's an institutional resistance to that and why. And I think there should be questions asked about the makeup of the creative executives in studios and networks. And one of the things that we're interested in drilling down on is more information and data about the female audience. We feel that it's an underserved audience, but we feel that the people who are making the decisions may not be thinking about that as much as they're thinking about the kinds of contents that they like and they respond to. And we saw a panel yesterday with CEOs of premium cable, and they talked very candidly about how they choose material, and it really does come to what they respond to. So I think we have to look at the makeup of the executives and the studios and the networks, and then I think we have to also work from the ground up in terms of really supporting female storytellers and educating people about what female audiences can bring in terms of their financial success.
All right, well, it's a cause we're fighting for, and we appreciate your being a part of it, and your being the rallying cry, effectively, for our guild in this. And we're excited. It's so gratifying to have made strides with Green. I feel like it's given the guild as a whole a sense of confidence that, we actually can make a difference in the industry.
Well, I think as producers, we make things happen, and we also are the developers of content, and we support the writers and the directors. So, in terms of the percentages of women, we fall in about 25% in terms of, in a general way, of the percentages of producers in the industry. That's higher than writers and directors. You drop to 15 with writers, and if you go into the mainstream realm for directors, you're looking at 4 to 7%, depending on the year. But I think the producers can do a lot, and we have the platform and we have the capabilities. So I think this is a great place for us to enter the conversation. All right. Well, it's going to be a heck of a conversation with you on one end of it, I will say that. Lydia, thank you so much for joining us and for being a part of the conference. And we didn't even talk about your panel, but there's plenty of time to do that another time. Yeah. All right.